Thanks a lot to Sika sir for giving me this opportunity. And I can understand that you have been watching this starting with FR from Jason sir and with the previous session of TG Suresh sirs of Direct Tax and all other faculties like Jayaraman sir, Saruna Prasad sir, even Vikas Oswal sir, Dinesh Jain sir. They would have given like lot of insights to you about how to present the paper in their respective subject, and even those points are equally applicable for indirect tax paper also. And this particular session, so thank God, like I don't have to explain everything. So therefore, I have been watching what they have been telling. So many presentation tips they have told. So again, I don't want to speak the same thing. So let's move on to the subject specific as to how to approach this indirect tax for CA final June 2020. See, even if you have not prepared so far, you can sit and prepare from now, and this time you can harvest so beautifully and you can appear for your exam. This time is more than sufficient when it comes to indirect tax exam. And see, first of all, the first aspect which I wanted to cover is what are all the amendments that is applicable for your June 2020 exam. First, any indirect tax exam, we need to check for the amendments by way of Finance Act or by way of notifications, circulars, orders, etc. 6 months prior to the exam month. As the exam month initially was scheduled to be May 20, which means amendments up to 31st October will be applicable for your exam. As the exam got postponed to June 20, does it mean the amendments up to 30th October 2019 and here 30th November 2019. So should I study those amendments up to 30th November 2019? Not required. So you don't have to. So therefore, what are all the amendments that is applicable for you is only as on 31st October 2019 only. So you don't have to prepare for extra amendments. So whatever is the study material that is provided by ICAI and even the amendments that they have uploaded in the Board of Studies Knowledge Portal, so those amendments only are applicable for your exam. So you don't have to prepare that 1 month extra amendments. That is the first aspect. Then, what is the paper pattern that is expected? So I am telling this as expected because what was the paper for November 2019, the same may not be for June 2020, and this analysis is based on the recent RTP May 2020. Whatever ICAI has published the revision test paper for May 2020, in that RTP, the way in which MCQs are framed is case scenario type MCQs. So case scenario type MCQs means first a question, like a practical question, how you do will be provided. And in that practical question, once you read, you will be given MCQs based on that particular practical question, and you don't have to do the presentation wherein you can do the rough work and you can arrive at the answer, and that answer, if it is there in the option, which means that is the correct answer and you need to answer that. So we don't have this 1 mark, 2 mark direct MCQs, so they have converted into case scenario MCQs. So that's why I'm just telling that it could be expected. And we have two divisions here. Division A is MCQ, so wherein you have to write that in the OMR sheet, whereas division 2 is descriptive, so that you need to write in the answer booklet. Now, this particular division A is for 30 marks. In that 30 marks, you have two case scenarios. So around some 1 page or 2 page case scenario will be there. So you have to carefully read that scenario and you need to do the computation based on MCQ. So in that case scenario, requirement will not be there. So there will be a situation, a complete situation about a particular business model, or it could be about different transactions carried out by a person. And thereafter, in MCQ only, you will know what is that you need to find. So my advice to you for approaching this type of case scenario questions is that, so first, don't read the case scenario. Don't read the case scenario. Go to the MCQs below that case scenario. So you will know what is the requirement. Then go to the case scenario and read that particular case scenario. So when you are doing it this way, you already know the requirement as per the MCQ. So now when you are reading the particular case scenario, those points you can underline or highlight in your mind, or you can start doing the analysis so that you can save a lot of time. Because when you read the case scenario completely and thereafter you go to the MCQ to find what is the requirement I need to do, the question will be of 2 pages and that particular MCQ has a small requirement. So you need to again read or trace where that information is there. So my advice to you is that better you go for the MCQ reading first and find what is the requirement, and then you go to the case scenario and you start analyzing it, so then it will be easy for you. So you can save the time. So these 2 case scenarios might come for 20 marks. So 5 MCQs, 5 into 2, 10, 1 case scenario. So 2 case scenarios will be 20 marks. And then the remaining 10 marks, that is question number 11 to question number 20, could be 1 mark questions. So that will be direct questions. Like, you have to be careful for this type of MCQ. This 1 mark MCQs are there now. For this 1 mark MCQs, you need to focus on monetary limits. Monetary limits. Monetary limits. Monetary limits like an aggregate turnover during the previous year should not exceed 1.5 crores, then only a person can opt for composition scheme during the current year. So that's a monetary limit. Then there is a resident welfare association which is collecting subscription charges from the members, and what should be the limit? 7,500. If the subscription charges per month per member does not exceed 7,500, it is exempted. If it goes beyond that, it will be taxable. So that is a monetary limit, 7,500, you need to remember. Same way, there is a performing artist. That performing artist per performance has received 1.5 lakh rupees, and if that 1.5 lakh rupees is the limit, then it is exempted. That performance artist service is exempted. If per performance it exceeds 1,50,000, then entirely it will be taxable. So that is a monetary limit you need to remember. Like that, around the indirect tax and customs, like GST and customs, whatever place you have monetary limits, so from there the MCQs can be framed. And then time limits. Time limits. That is, what is the time limit within which an appeal should be filed? So we have a time limit. So that particular time limit you need to remember. And same way, if I want to take ITC on closing stock in terms of 18(1)(a), 18 subsection 1 clause A, I need to take ITC. For that, I need to file 1 form. So even form numbers you need to remember. Form. And what is the time limit within which that ITC 01 form should be filed? Within 30 days from the date when I am eligible to take the ITC, or such further extended time limit as the assessing officer may specify. So therefore, like this, wherever you have monetary limits, time limits, and form numbers, you try to remember this. So that will be useful for this question number 11 to 20, this 1 mark MCQs. So majority could be on that. So I cannot say that this is how it is. So based on whatever my interaction with the students in the past attempts, so they have said these are all the areas from which the questions are asked. So this is what I am trying to tell. And these 2 case scenarios are completely new. These are completely new. We did not have it in the past. So therefore, if you want to know how these case scenarios could be, you can refer to the latest RTP. RTP 2020, we have latest RTP. So in that RTP, you can refer to how the case scenarios could be. So this is with respect to division A. And see friends, this division A if you are able to score good marks, so definitely, so you are nearing 60. See, the target should be such that you should aim higher. So your aim should be 80. Worst come, it should be 60 and above. You should be in the exemption because the paper is like that. Indirect tax subject is so lively, and when you read, it is not like other subjects where you need to remember by default, by mistake. You will remember lot of things in indirect taxes. That is the speciality of this subject. So you easily, there are many students who are getting so 60 plus, so you can also get, so you don't have to now worry about this paper, even though it is the last paper. All 7 subjects impact on the mind will be there when you are writing this 8 subject. That is the only Herculean task for you, because when you are reading indirect tax, your energy is completely exhausted. And that one day before exam, and when you are writing indirect tax exam, it is like, when will I go home? So enough, I'm not able to write further. So that kind of pressure will be there, but subject pressure will be very, very less. So that is the last paper, and if you have with full confidence, if you can write that, easily you will be scoring 60 plus. So small things you need to remember. So this particular MCQ area is a scoring area. You need to have complete learning of the subject. So you should never ask anyone, so which topics I need to read so that I can get good marks in MCQ. MCQ is like all-round coverage of the subject is required. So therefore, you should be knowing the subject. If you are remembering or not, actually you don't have to remember, you don't have to present. So presentation skills are not at all required in this. So if you know the subject, so you can definitely get good marks in that. Then the next is division B, descriptive. Here presentation skills play a major role. So how best you are presenting the answer, so that many good marks you can expect, because every student, I believe that they will prepare and go to the exam. And when they are going to the exam, they know something and they are not in a position to present it properly, because of which unnecessarily they are losing marks here. So therefore, so you have to be good at subject, same way you have to be good at presentation also. Now in this division B is for 70 marks, and here we have question number 1, which is a compulsory question for 14 marks, and question number 2 to 6. So out of these 5, you have to write any 4. So therefore, you have to write 5 questions of 14 marks each, and that's where you will be getting 70 marks. In that, question number 1 will be compulsory, and according to my analysis, I feel like question number 1 could be one big question for 14 marks, is what I feel. It's my view, because I'll tell you from where I have got this analysis. See, from May 2018, I am seeing the question paper patterns. So initially it was like small questions. Whereas the recent trend from November 2019 followed with RTP May 2020 is that they are giving a practical question interlinking multiple chapters. So there is a possibility of one question for 14 marks, and that particular question number 1 they could give, so that when you are writing question number 1, you are not just preparing one chapter, you are preparing multiple chapters. So like your not total income computation in income tax, that could be an example like that we have in GST. Like multiple chapters, input tax credit, composition scheme, registration, time of supply, place of supply, valuation, everything can be combined into one particular question. So that question, if you are writing, which means that, so they know whether you know the subject or not. So therefore, this compulsory question, it could be for 14 marks, possible one full question for 14 marks. Then the remaining questions for 14 marks will not be one question for 14 marks. There could be parts in that, A, B, C, or sometimes A, B, like that we could be having parts in that. Now, what are the various question types that we have in indirect tax CA final exam? We have 3 types of question types: practical or computation based. So you need to read the question. In your mind, some analysis will be happening. You will take the calculator and do the computation, arrive at the answer. So that's a practical or computation based question. And in that we have to direct computation or interlinking. As I told you before, that multiple chapters are being connected. So therefore, this interlinking question could be there or direct practical question could be there. So I will give you one example for each. Then we have case study or application based. That is, they will give one particular situation, and that situation would have been point based on one particular provision. So therefore, that is known as case study or application oriented question, wherein the particular provision is applied into that case study. Then theory questions. These are the three major question types that we have for indirect tax CA final. In that, I wanted to give to you example for each and every question type and what are the points that you need to look out for. Now, approach to each question type. In that, I am starting with practical, direct, practical questions. In that, if you look, there is one question. This question I have taken from November 2019 exam, new syllabus. They have given one question. Boardmas Limited, providing education service, furnishes you with the following information. Then they have given multiple transactions. So various receipts of that particular education institution they have given. And finally, you need to do some computation. Compute the value of taxable supply, assuming that all the above receipts are exclusive of GST. Like this one question is given. This question is for 9 marks here. Now, in this question, what is the first thing that you need to do? Any practical question that you see, that's a direct practical question, easily you will know. When you read the question itself, you will know that it's a direct practical question. So it's not interlinking. Multiple concepts are not involved in this question. The first thing is you need to identify the area from which this particular question is framed. So this question is framed from exemptions chapter, and that to educational sector. So that should run into your mind. And when it is running into your mind, all the provisions applicable for education sector will come and flash in your mind, so that when you are reading the question point by point, so first it should be overall look, a bird's eye view of the question. So you will know the area from which the question is asked. Immediately in your mind, that particular provisions will flash. So that is the power of human mind. Sincerely, seriously, if you have prepared, so it will be there in your mind. It will be there, and your effort should be such that it will come into the exam hall, and before the exam you may not be able to remember everything, but when you sit in the exam hall, you see the question paper. If your hard work is there, if you have made true effort, so that will push you the answer. So that is the power of human mind. So therefore, when you see that question, so immediately in your mind it will flash, okay, all the provisions of exemptions chapter, that too related to education sector, will come and flash in your mind. Now you start reading it. What is that? Receipts from running a boarding school. And you know the provision. What is that provision? Services provided by an educational institution to student, faculty and staff is exempted. Education institution means up to higher secondary or equivalent. So it's a boarding school, higher secondary or equivalent. So it is exempted. And any service provided by that education institution to student, faculty and staff. Therefore, boarding, even the accommodation they are providing, even that is also exempted. So like that, when you are reading point by point, as you have identified from which area, so those related provisions will come and flash in your mind. So it will be an easy takeaway for you. So you can beautifully write the answer. Now, having identified this, then second, check the requirement. Very, very important, because majority of the students will not know what is the purpose for which they are reading the question. So they will read the question. See, we should not comment on them. They are reading the question. But the only problem is they will read, keep on reading. They will not know what to do in the answer sheet. So they don't know where to start. So this problem can be tackled when you know the requirement. So go to the requirements. Usually it will be in the last. Sometimes it will be in the beginning. And in that requirement, compute the value of taxable supply, assuming all the above receipts are exclusive of GST. So you need to find the value. So therefore, out of this, whatever all the taxable supplies, can I take separately? No, don't do that. Even though the question is, what is the value of taxable supply, which means that if it is not taxable supply, you need to explain why it is not taxable supply. If it is not taxable supply, means what? It is exempted supply. You need to write, it is not a taxable supply because it is exempted. Like that you need to write. And justification is required in the answer. Okay, fine. So now, how to approach to the question I told you. So what are the two things that you need to remember? First, have a bird's eye view. Identify the area from which the question is asked. Immediately the provisions will flash in your mind, and based on that, when you start reading point by point, you will know whether it is taxable or whether it is exempted. And then what is the requirement? The requirement should be very careful. Compute the value of taxable supply. So here only value to be computed. GST is not required to be computed. So if you compute the value, that is sufficient. But that does not mean only the taxable value should be taken. All the points you need to analyze and give the justification. Now I am proceeding to the answer presentation. In the answer presentation, when you look into the answer, see, this is the suggested answer of November 2019 exam. In that suggested answer, see how it has been presented. See, when you read the question and see the answer, we will be overlooking many points. And these points really are important for presentation. See how the answer is presented. Actually, when you read the question, you have first identified from which area the question has been framed. So that point only they gave. What is that? Provision related to the particular question. Write appropriate provision before commencing the computation. What is that? These exemptions are in which section? Section numbers you need to remember. And compared to income tax, direct tax, we don't have that many section numbers here. In GST and custom, very, very less. And if you start writing all the section numbers that are applicable for your exams, so you can complete that in 2 pages. In 2 pages, you can complete all the sections. So that less number of sections only you have to remember. And these sections, when you remember, see, subsection you don't have to. For example, section 7 deals with supply. In that section 7 supply, section 7 subsection 2 deals with exclusions from supply. If you are not able to remember section 7 subsection 2, at least write section 7 that this particular exclusion or inclusion in supply, when it is supply, section 7 should come in your mind. Then composition scheme. Lot of points are there in composition scheme, but all these are in section 10. So when you're writing something about composition scheme, you need to write as per section 10. And same way, registration. So the highlighted, compulsory registration, multiple points are there, but all these will come in section 24. So you need to remember 24. Like that, the particular concept heading section will be there. At least try to remember that heading section here. So that's how you need to start with. And exemptions, we don't have any section. Actually, section 11 of CGST Act and section 20 of IGST Act empowers central government on the recommendations of GST Council to notify from time to time exemptions with respect to goods and services. So therefore, all these exemptions will be coming by way of notification, and there is one notification called Notification 12/2017, that is the master notification. So any new exemptions will be added to that master notification. Therefore, this notification 12/2017 you need to remember. So services provided by education institution to its students, faculty and staff are exempted under notification 12/2017. So that you remember. So that gives some kind of speciality when you are writing the answer. Even you feel confident, yes, I have written it perfectly. And you don't have to remember the date when this notification is given. So that citation is not required. Next, that provision you are writing. So when an educational institution is exempted. So first category, up to higher secondary or equivalent. Second, education as a part of curriculum for obtaining a qualification recognized by law. Third, approved vocational education. Like that you have written the provision. Then we have to give the heading. Heading is important. What is the heading? Simple, based on the requirement. What is the requirement? Compute the value of taxable supply. So you are writing the value of taxable supply of so and so company for which month. You should be very careful here. So here it is month or year or quarter for which they have asked us to compute. You should be very careful. So here, what is the question? For the month of March 2019. So you need to write in the answer also for the month of March 2019. So that should be there. And heading you have written. Now you start computation. Now, when you do the computation, remember one point which I told you already, that notes should be provided. And when I have seen the way in which the answer sheets, like verified mark sheets, are being brought by the students to me to check as to what is the mistakes that they have done, I have seen the way in which valuation is being done, wherein not for the answer they are giving marks, for every note they are giving marks. For example, if this question is for 9 marks, and how many points are there? Say some 9 or 10 points are there. So what they will do, for every 1 point, 1 note, and for that note, 1 mark. So like that they are giving. So particular point, if it is wrong and you have not written note, if it is correct but you have not written note, so then that mark is gone. So a kind of step mark system is there in indirect tax also, like how other faculties would have told you. Even in this subject also it is there. So which means here that the note should be written, and there are 2 approaches to write the notes. First, you will make a table. In the table, you will write the points. For example, receipts from a boarding school, taxable or exempted, you will write in the amount column. And refer note 1. So after the table, below, you can write note 1, note 2, note 3, like that you can write. This is one way. But I will not recommend that way, because you may miss out few points and that presentation is time consuming. And what you can do in the table, what you are drawing, that is, you will take the sheet, answer booklet, in that you will write particulars, amount, serial number, particulars, amount. So let the particular column be bigger, and where you are writing the point. See, that's how the presentation here also. So receipts from a boarding school. Below that itself, the explanation is given, so that when they are reading the point, they will see the note, and for that 1 mark is given immediately. So even for valuation, it will be easy for them. So follow this kind of presentation, even it is time saving. Then, same way, receipts from GAN, Uday, like that, lot of points are there. For everything, you need to write what is the justification. So that justification is important. See, don't think that I am not explaining the question and answer. So this session, I want to tell you lot of other points, and as to how the presentation should be, and what are all the intricate areas where it is confusing. So those areas we will be focusing on. And here, the next area is write justification to each point as why it is taxable or exempted. If it is taxable, you will write the amount. If it is exempted, you will write there that it is exempted. And finally, you will total it, and only the taxable supply you need to total, and there you need to give the heading for the total. As to what is that for? It is a value of taxable supply. And when you are doing the totals, please double check that the computation, the calculator double check, because everything is correct. Sometimes the total is not correct. Unnecessarily, for the mistake of calculator, we will be losing marks. So that way I will put. Okay, so it's not your mistake, it's calculator mistake. Because of that, you have lost the marks. So therefore, so let the calculator not do mistake. That is in your hands. So therefore, this particular aspect also, you please be clear here. Then, what are the areas to focus for practical questions? So this particular question I have given from where? Exemption. So this question is framed based on exemptions. So each and every point, so that particular taxability are exempted. Now, like this, what are all the areas from where the practical questions can be framed? So these are the areas I have given this. And I will ensure that this particular sheet, whatever I am discussing, I will ensure that through CCASA it will be reaching you. So therefore, so these are the areas you need to focus more on practical question, and this is mainly based on past exam questions and RTP. So I have given some 10 areas from which practical questions will be asked. So you should be concentrating more and more on practice. When you practice the question, remember, see the question, don't see the answer. See the question, take a paper and write it. Write how you write in the exam, you write it, and then check with the answer. And ICAI really has given good questions for practice. So in their website itself, questions for practice is already given. So every chapter, what are all the past exam questions answered as per the latest provisions they have provided. So you take that. So that questions will be sufficient for the time what we have now. So you take those questions and you start practicing. So how we need to practice? Take the question, don't see the answer. So see the question, arrive at the answer, write the notes, everything, and then compare with the answer. You will know as to how you are presenting. And that will be like a pre-final exam for you. Don't depend on someone to conduct the test. So you are the master of you. So therefore, you take the questions and practice it this way. So definitely your presentation will improve further. And I'm just giving you some knowledge about each and every area where the practical questions could be. So these are the areas, mainly valuation under GST. When it comes to valuation under GST, so here rules, we have some rules, rule number 27 to rule number 31, we have rules from where the questions are repeatedly being inserted along with the regular question. Like that, when I say this particular area, that does not mean that particular aspect alone, all the related areas related to valuation under GST, like that, you need to read. Then we have a practical interlinked question. Practical interlinked question means multiple areas will be added in one particular question. So this sample you have in RTP May 20. You can see that particular question. And I have given this. So there is one company engaged in various commercial activities, and they have given what are those activities in which they have engaged with. And finally, they have given compute GST liability, and the rates is also given. Now, when you look into this question, when you go through this question, when you start reading this question, you will be having, see, this many areas from which the question is framed. Meaning of supply, section 7, type of supply, whether it is intrastate supply or interstate supply, and in that what is, whether it is export of service or not, like that. Then valuation is also touched, place of supply is also touched, and then time limit for issuance of invoice, section 31, that is also given here, and exemptions is also given. So this many areas, 6 areas here, which means these 6 are 6 chapters. These 6 chapters are being given in one question. So then you can understand the way in which the students can be tested. So this is an RTP question, so marks is not there, but easily if this question is given, I can expect that this question to be asked for a 14 marks. And see, if this question is given, they are touching 6 different areas, so please be prepared. So it is not one chapter you read. It means that you can forget that. No, not that way. So in another chapter when you are reading, something we have read that chapter. So if there is any interlinking, you should be in a position to connect that. So when you read this question and solve the answer to this, so your outlook will completely change. So as to how to approach this type of questions, so you need to practice. Practice means don't see the answer. Without seeing the answer, you try, but you have this many provisions that are applicable. So if you want, you can just take these areas, you read it once, you revise those areas once, and then approach to the question so that you will know as to how to present the answer. Then, so you have to identify the areas. It is like in exam also when you read the question, not that for this question alone, any type of question given like this. So because as the way forward when we proceed, you will be getting this type of questions only. And that's where the real knowledge can be tested. So in this type of questions, the first thing you need to do is, what are the areas that are being asked? Try to identify the areas so that those respective provisions will flash in our mind. And then second, as usual, requirement. What is the requirement? Here we need to compute GST payable. The commonly committed mistake is that whenever GST computation is there, what students will do, they will take value, multiply with GST rate, and they will write. But if it is CGST, SGST or IGST, that should be separately shown column wise, because that is asked in the question. Even if it is not asked, you need to do that way. Look into the requirement. Compute GST liability, CGST, SGST or IGST as the case may be. Means you have to show the computation separately. What if that line is not given? Then also you need to do the computation separately. Don't forget this. In a rush to complete the answer, don't take everything in a single column and complete the answer. Don't do that, because it requires a simple common sense of putting the table in 3-column or format, and for that, why we need to lose the marks. And then presentation of the answer. So as usual, we need to start with the heading, and thereafter see how it is presented: value, CGST, SGST, IGST, like that, column wise. And lot of notes are there. Easily when you follow this type of presentation, that is point, note 1, note 2, note 3, you may forget few notes. That is when you do analysis, it will be processing in your mind. But you need to remember that, not to write it in the answer sheet. So for that you may forget. So remember what I told you. Try to insert the note. So this is a note. For example, note number 7. No need to. Note number 7 is they have exported some services to Nepal under a letter of undertaking. Now, if they have received in Indian rupees, will it become export of services? So we have export of services definition. 5 conditions should be satisfied. Supplier should be in India, recipient should be outside India, place of supply should be outside India, consideration should be in forex, and in case of specified service by RBI, that is services provided to Nepal and Bhutan, it should be in Indian rupees. And 5th condition, supplier and recipient should not be two establishments of the same person. Which means these 5 conditions you need to write in the answer. When you are writing in the answer, what if you forgot that? Yes, it is export of service. You have written in the answer it is export of service, but you have not written the justification. You forgot it. Unnecessarily you will be losing mark. So therefore, below that point itself you write. So don't keep note 7 and write separately there itself. So let the answer sheet run into 4 pages here. That answer, when you are writing, you may go into 4 pages. But one thing is certain, every note you are writing in the answers, notes form part of answer in the table itself, so that the marks will not be lost. And thereafter, when you are writing the note also, remember a few things here. That is, note when you are writing, not just the note you need to write, you need to give the reference. Whether it is an export of goods or not, we have one section 2 reference, so that's section 2 as per section 2, like that you will start. And then you will write the provision. Say for example, we have 110(1)(d) of IGST Act, which says that when goods are assembled or installed at site of the recipient, what should be taken as the place of supply? The place of supply should be the location where the goods are assembled or installed at site. So first you need to write as per section 10. 1D you don't know, leave it. 1D you don't know, subsection 1 you don't know, clause also you don't know. Why to bother here? At least remember section 10. Goods place of supply section 10 as per section 10 of IGST Act. The place of supply in case of goods assembled or installed at site is the location where such assembly or installation takes place. Therefore, now relate. Whatever the point question, you relate to the provision and you explain. This is how the notes should be written. So first write appropriate provision and then connect the question to the provision and reference of act and section. Section is important. Say you don't know the section, at least write the act, IGST Act, because the provisions of place of supply will not be in CGST Act. If you write the provisions of place of supply as per CGST Act, so no need to read further. You will not get 1 mark also. Then, next, case study based question. How to approach to that case study based question. So here, there is one question which I have taken from November 2018 attempt. Mr. Sanjay of New Delhi made a request for motor cab to super ride for traveling from New Delhi to Gurgaon after Mr. Sanjay paid the cab charges. Like that, one scenario they have given. One particular Sanjay is traveling in a cab like that, they have given. Now, they have given a situation. For this situation, what is the requirement? Go to the question. First, identify the question. With reference to the provisions of IGST Act, determine who is liable to pay GST in this case. So now you know what is the requirement. Now you read the question. Mr. Sanjay of New Delhi made a request for a motor cab to super ride for traveling from New Delhi to Gurgaon. After Mr. Sanjay pays the cab charges using his debit card, he gets the details of the driver, Mr. Jowar Singh, and the cab registration number. Super Ride is a mobile application owned and managed by DT. So who is liable to pay GST? So even it would have flashed in your mind. Section 9, subsection 5, in case of services provided to an e-commerce operator, liability to pay GST is on e-commerce operator with respect to 3 notified services: transportation of passengers by radio taxi, motor cab, maxi cab, motorcycle, and then accommodation services, housekeeping services. So therefore, these 3 are notified for 9 subsection 5, which means the liability to pay GST is on e-commerce operator. And it is not on the driver, neither on the passenger nor on the driver. So it is on the e-commerce operator. That point you need to write. So see the answer. Section 5. How section 5 will come? It is section 9 only now. Section 9 of CGST Act, section 5 of IGST Act. You can write anything because both places the provision is same. And you have to write the provision. So remember, 4-point approach for presenting this case study type question. First, you need to give the reference of the section and act. Then you need to write the provision. When you are writing the provision, be specific. Don't start as per section 9. We have forward charge mechanism, reverse charge mechanism. No, yeah. That much time we will not be having. Be specific. This question is what? Related to e-commerce operator. So write that particular specific provision. And then discussion. So in the present case, the said activity, is it e-commerce operator, through e-commerce operator? Is it notified for liability to pay GSTs on e-commerce operator? Now relate the question to the provision. And finally, what is the conclusion that you need to write? What is the requirement? So who is liable to pay GST? That point you need to write in the conclusion. So 4-point approach: reference, provision, discussion, finally conclusion. And there is another part also in this question. Will your answer be different if DT Limited is located in New York, USA? And yes, actually, if the e-commerce operator is located outside India, then their representative in India will be liable to pay GST. If they don't have a representative in India, they should appoint one person, and that person will be paying GST. So like that, you need to write particular point in the conclusion, okay? And then these are the areas to focus for case study based question. These are the areas from which you will be getting. Then finally, theory questions. Theory questions. See, nowadays, the questions framed by ICAI is not direct theory. So what are the salient features of GST? No, you will not get. And what are the conditions to be satisfied for opting for composition scheme? What are the cases where compulsory registration is applicable under GST? Like that, they will not ask. In that also, they identified a scenario, and from that scenario only they are making the question. You look into this. This is from customs. During the year 2018, the customs authorities have noticed that there is an increased quantity of product XYZ being imported into the country. Determine whether the central government should consider levying safeguard duty or anti-dumping duty with appropriate reasons. So now you need to know about the provisions of anti-dumping duty and safeguard duty. Whenever goods are imported in large quantities, it is safeguard duty. Whenever goods are imported at a cheaper rate, it is anti-dumping duty. So you should be knowing which duty that will be levied here. So that knowledge we will be having. So you need to write about it is not anti-dumping duty, it is safeguard duty. Why? Because anti-dumping duty is levied when the goods are imported at a price which is lower than the domestic selling price in the exporter's country. Safeguard duty is levied when the goods are being imported in large quantities. So that you need to write. That's what theory question. And then also enumerate the exemptions or reliefs available from such duty. We did not study. We did not study what are the cases where there is no safeguard duty. Nowhere it is there in the study material. Then how to write? Out of syllabus? No, it is there. When safeguard duty is levied, you know. When safeguard duty is levied, you know. Now you need to write the opposite of that. That is, what are all the situations where safeguard duty is levied, conditions are there. Now every condition, if you put opposite, that is the answer for this. Enumerate the exemptions or relief available from such duty. That is, what is the meaning of large quantity? If goods are imported from developing country and if it exceeds 3% of the total imports of that article into India, then safeguard duty is levied. Means if it does not exceed 3%, no safeguard duty. That's the first point. Then second large quantity is what? If imports from developing country each developing country does not exceed 3%, but imports from all such developing countries exceeds 9% of the total imports of that article into India, then in that case, 9%, there is safeguard duty. So what if it does not exceed 9%? No safeguard duty, that's the second point. Then we have one exception. If goods are imported by 100% UOU or SEZ, there is no safeguard duty. So that point you can write. What if they are clearing to DTA? Then there will be safeguard duty. That's another point. And even otherwise, the government may exempt any article. So like this, so you have to write the answer. So directly they are not asking. You know the positive, the conditions. Now they will ask when it will not be levied. So you need to write the negative points out of it. This is the application knowledge that you should be having here, even in theory questions also. And these are the areas to focus for theory questions. And so with this, I have given you as to what are all the question types, each and every question type, and how your approach should be, and what are the areas to focus for each and every question type. Now, finally, I'll just take 10 minutes and I will complete. It is about certain alternative views. See, this subject is being a new subject. GST is a new area. So a lot of interpretation issues are there in general, as well as even at a practical scenario. That's where a lot of litigations now have started. So now, when you read a particular provision, there are some interpretations. Two different views are possible. So therefore, which view I need to take? You need to take ICAI view. So it's better. So you need to take ICAI view, because whatever view that ICAI has taken, you need to take that view and you need to write the answer. I'll give you one example. Reversal of ITC, there is one provision. Section 18, subsection 6. Section 18, subsection 6 says that when capital goods are removed or sold or disposal of capital goods on which ITC is availed, that is sale of capital goods on which ITC is availed. Actually, we have two answers, that is sale or disposal of CG on which ITC is availed, GST payable equals to how much GST I need to pay. GST payable, I have two views here, two views in that. View one, take ITC availed, how much ever ITC you have availed at the time of purchase. At the time of purchase, whatever ITC you have availed, take that ITC availed. Minus 5% for every quarter or part thereof. So ITC availed minus 5% for every quarter or part thereof. That you reduce. So remaining ITC you need to reverse. Or B. GST on sale value, whichever is higher. This is view one. View 2, I will tell you. Same way it will be, but point A will change. Whichever, A or B, whichever is higher, but point A will change. Point A, another place where it is given is that total ITC divided by 60 months into balance useful life. This is what I need to reverse. Or B, GST on sale value, whichever is higher. Law provides these 2 points. Law provides these 2 views. You can follow any view. Whichever is beneficial to you, follow. But ICAI in their study material has followed one view. That even in the suggested answers they have followed. Even in RTP they have again answered the same way. Even though law provides these 2, you cannot write these 2. So if you want to write, you write. But which you should definitely write is this. So this is ICAI's view. So this ICAI view you should be writing in exam. If you want, you can write this as a note. If you want, you can write that as a note. But what is the answer is as per ICAI view. This is one area. Like that, another area. To the extent of agricultural produce, that is, who are exempted from registration. Section 23 says, Section 23, exempt from registration. Exempt from registration. Who are exempted from registration? Section 23 says who are exempted from registration. In that, the first point is if they are engaged in making supply to the extent of agricultural produce. That is, if there is a person, there is an agriculturist, and that agriculturist is making sale of agricultural produce. So to the extent of, that word is used, to the extent of agricultural produce, they are exempted from registration. Then again, two views are there. Two views are there in that, view 1, view 2. What is that view 1? Now, I am making an agricultural produce. 30 lakhs. Agricultural produce 30 lakhs. And other sales. Say for example, I am selling paddy here, and along with the sale of paddy, I am milling that into rice and I am selling rice also. So sale of paddy is agricultural produce, and sale of rice is not an agricultural produce. So others, say for example, rice, and that is some 20 lakhs. Now the total is 50 lakhs, and the threshold limit for registration is 40 lakhs. Now, should this person be registered? Now, don't count this agricultural produce. To the extent of agricultural produce is exempted, which means don't count this agricultural produce. Then take the only other thing, that is rice, as it does not exceed the threshold limit, not required to register. This is one way of interpretation. Not required to register. View 2 is that if that person is selling some other produce, he is selling agricultural produce, he is selling some other produce, then these two should be taken. Agricultural produce 30 plus other 20, so 50, which exceeds 40 lakhs, so therefore required to register. So which means only when he is selling exclusively agricultural produce he is exempted, and if he is selling agricultural produce as well as other produce, and in the meaning of aggregate turnover, exempted supply also will come, taxable supply also will come, all supplies will come, so therefore add it, and it exceeds 40 lakhs, therefore he is required to register. So therefore you tell me, so which means that view 1 is correct or view 2 is correct? Both views are correct. There is a litigation in this. Both views are correct, interpretation related issue. And what view ICAI has taken? ICAI has taken this view. This is ICAI view, and this is not the correct view. If you want to write this as a note, you can write this as a note. But what is the ICAI view? ICAI view is that even for agricultural produce, other produce is there, add it. If it exceeds the threshold limit, that person is required to get registered. Then another issue, last issue, meaning of family. What is the meaning of family? So we have person, spouse, brother, sisters, parents, grandparents, and children. That will come under meaning of family. Now, there is a person, Mr. A, and father of Mr. A. Only when the father, the parents and grandparents, brother and sisters are wholly dependent on that person, they will be called as family. So family definition goes this way. What is family? Spouse and children, whether or not dependent. Parents, grandparents, brothers and sisters, only when they are wholly and mainly dependent on that person. So now, father of Mr. A is not dependent. Father of Mr. A is not dependent. Now, Mr. A is importing some services. Import services from his father, who is located in USA, and Mr. A is located in India. Without any consideration, the import of services is made. Import of services without any consideration. Will it become supply? As per 7.1a, if there is any import of service from a related person, it will become supply, even though without consideration. Now, import of service, is it from a related person? Now, should we see whether father of Mr. A is related to Mr. A? Now, from whose interpretation you need to see? If you see from father of Mr. A, father's perspective, child is related whether or not dependent. Child is related whether or not dependent. So therefore, that will become related party transaction. But when you see from Mr. A perspective, parents will become related only if they are wholly and mainly dependent. So that's how the law is. Now, from whose perspective I need to interpret whether it is a related party transaction or not? Mr. Father of Mr. A perspective or Mr. A's perspective? Father's perspective or son's perspective? Now, who is liable to pay GST? Son is liable to pay GST. On import of services, who will be paying GST? Son will be paying GST. So, from son's perspective, you need to interpret. So, for son, whether father is related? No, because not dependent on him. So, it is not a related party transaction. So, that is the view ICAI has taken. So, you need to follow that view, even though there is an alternative view. So, these three are just examples, not that only in these three cases we have this kind of differences. Like that, there are many places where there are differences. So, how will I know? Don't worry, don't worry. You take the questions for practice which are uploaded by ICAI. In that questions, when you start solving, they have given alternative views. Whatever view they have followed, kindly follow that view only for your presentation. So, with this, I am just concluding this particular session, and all the very best for your exam. And maybe this time of whatever I took, maybe 45 minutes I took. I don't know whether it is sufficient or not for you, but to the best of my knowledge, whatever I can share with you, I have shared with you. Once again, all the best, all the very best for your exam. And like what other faculties have said already, that have fitness, physical as well as mental fitness, and definitely you will be in a position to clear this exam with flying colors. Don't believe in any rumors, and like this particular attempt will be very difficult. The pass percentage they will cut. All these you don't believe. You put your effort and just leave it to the destiny, and it will happen. Okay. Thank you, CICA sir, for giving me this opportunity.